Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back at it once again, and right now I'm about to run down the book of Judith out of the Apocrypha, and the reason I want to read the book of Judith is to point out the fact that this woman was very courageous, and also to point out the fact that the Israelites believed in a different God than all other nations, which most of us know that. We know that already, right? And I want to point out the traitors in our community. I want to point out the traitors, the snitches. All right? So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's say, in the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, in the days of Arphaxad, which reigned over the Medes in Ecbatana, and built in Ecbatana walls round about of stones, hewn 3 cubits broad and 6 cubits long, and made the height of the wall 70 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits, and set the towers thereof upon the gates of it, 100 cubits high, and the breadth thereof in the foundation 60 cubits. And he made the gates thereof, even gates that were raised to the height of 70 cubits, and the breadth of them was 40 cubits, for the going forth of its mighty armies, and for the setting in array of his footmen. Even in those days, King Nebuchadnezzar made war with King Arphaxad in the great plain, which is the plain in the borders of Ragua. All right, so this is where the key points start taking place at, the key events, right? It said that Nebuchadnezzar made war with King Arphaxad in the great plain, which is the plain in the borders of Ragua. All right? So you see the aggressor already. So it's a fight about to ensue. It say, and there came unto him all they that dwelt in the hill country, and all that dwelt by Euphrates, and Tigris, and Hydaspes, and the plain of Arioch, the king of Elymenes, and very many nations of the sons of Chilod assembled themselves to battle. Then Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, sent unto all that dwelt in Persia, and to all that dwelt westward, and to those that dwelt in Cilicia, and Damascus, and Libanus, and Antibanus, and to all that dwelt upon the sea coast, and to those among the nations that were of Carmel, and Gilead, and the higher Galilee, and the great plain of Esdrelam, and to all that were in Samaria, and the cities thereof, and beyond the Jordan unto Jerusalem, and Bethany, and Chilis, and Kadesh, and the river of Egypt, and Thaphanes, and Ramesses, and all the land of Jesum, until ye come beyond Thanis and Memphis, and to all the inhabitants of Egypt, until ye come to the borders of Ethiopia. But all the inhabitants of the land made light of the commandment of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians. Neither went they with him to the battle, for they were not afraid of him. Yea, he was before them as one man, and they sent away his ambassadors from them without effect and with disgrace. So y'all see what's going on? He wanted help. He went into battle with Arphaxad. Arphaxad teamed up with all the people in his region, and Nebuchadnezzar wanted to team up with everybody in his region, but nobody respected Nebuchadnezzar. All right. So they say when he sent his ambassadors, they sent his ambassadors back in disgrace, right? So they was like, man, get out my face, basically. Say, therefore, Nebuchadnezzar was very angry with all this country and swear by his throne and kingdom that he would surely be avenged upon all those coasts of Cilicia and Damascus and Syria, and that he would slay with the sword all the inhabitants of the land of Moab and the children of Ammon and all Judea and all that were in Egypt, till ye come to the borders of the two seas. Then he marched in battle array with his power against King Arphaxad in the 17th year, and he prevailed in his battle. For he overthrew all the power of Arphaxad and all his horsemen and all his chariots, and became lord of his cities, and came into Ecbatani, and took the towers, and spoiled the streets thereof, and turned the beauty thereof into shame. All right? So y'all see what's going on, right? He had war. See what I'm saying? He went to war with Arphaxad, and he prevailed. He killed everything. See what I'm saying? All right. They say, then he marched into battle array with his power against King Arphaxad in the 17th year. Okay, I read it already. In the shame, okay? They say, he took also Arphaxad in the mountains of Rogor and smote him through with his darts and destroyed him utterly. They say, and destroyed him utterly that day. So he returned afterward to Nineveh, both he and his company of sundry nations, before a very great multitude of men of war. And there he took his ease and banqueted, both he and his army, in 120 days. All right? So y'all see what's going on so far in chapter 1. It was this great battle that went on between Nebuchadnezzar and Arphaxad. Arphaxad was defeated. All the people towards the east, basically, so to speak, did not want to help him. Did not help him. Disrespected him. And he said that he was going to get him back. He wanted revenge for this. All right? So that's what we have with the story so far. So next chapter. It say, and in the 18th year, the 2 and 20th day of the first month, there was talk in the house of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Assyria, that he should, as he said, avenge himself on all the earth. So he called unto him all his officers and all his nobles, and communicated with them his secret counsel, and concluded the afflicting of the whole earth out of his own mouth. So y'all hear what they talked about in the council. The secret council meeting was him vowing to destroy everybody. Peep game, y'all. And they say out of his own mouth. This ain't no God doing. This out of his own mouth, according to his own will. See what I'm saying? All right? So it say, then they declared to destroy all flesh that did not obey the commandments of his mouth. And when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, called Holofernes, the chief captain of his army, which was next unto him, and said unto him, thus saith the great king, the Lord of the whole earth, behold, thou shalt go forth from my presence, and take with thee men that trust in their own strength, of footmen, 120,000, and the number of horses, with their riders 12,000. And thou shalt go against all the west country, because they disobeyed my commandment. Understand these words, y'all, so y'all can understand the difference between man and the Almighty God. And thou shalt declare unto that they prepare for me earth and water. For I will go forth in my wrath against them, and will cover the whole face of the earth with the feet of mine army, and I will give them for a spoil unto them, so that their slain shall fill the valleys and brooks, and the river shall be filled with their dead till it overflow. And I will lead them captive to the utmost parts of the earth. Thou, therefore, shalt go forth and take beforehand for me all their coasts. And if they will themselves unto thee, thou shalt reserve them for me till the day of their punishment. But concerning them that rebel, let not thine eye spare them, but put them to the slaughter, and spoil them whatsoever thou goest. For as I live, and by the power of my kingdom, whatsoever I have spoken, that will I do by mine hand. And take thou heed that thou transgress none of the commandments of thy Lord, but accomplish them fully, as I have commanded thee, and defer not to do them. So it said, whatever it take, by any means necessary, do what I said. It said, then Holofernes went from the presence of the Lord, and called the governors and captains and the officers of the army of Ashur. And he mustered the chosen men for the battle, as his Lord had commanded him, unto 120,000 and 20,000 archers and horseback, on horseback. And he ranged them as a great army is ordered for the war. And he took camels and asses for their carriages, a very great number, and sheep and oxen and goats without number for their provision. and plenty of victual for every man of the army, and very much gold and silver out of the king's house. Then he went forth in all his power to go before the king Nebuchadnezzar in the voyage, and to cover all the face of the earth westward with their chariots and horsemen and their chosen footmen. A great number also, sundry countries, came with them like locusts and like the sand of the earth, for the multitude was without number. There's a lot of them. And they went forth of Nineveh 3 days' journey toward the plain of Bethileth, and pitched from Bethileth near the mountain which is at the left hand of the upper Cilicia. Keep killing that word. Then he took all his army, his footmen and horsemen and chariots, and went from thence into the hill country, and destroyed Phud and Lud, and spoiled all the children of Rasis, and the children of Israel, which were toward the wilderness at the south of the land of the Chileans. Then he went over Euphrates, and went through Mesopotamia, and destroyed all the high cities that were upon the river Abane, till ye come to the sea. And he took the borders of Cilicia, and killed all that resisted him, and came to the borders of Japhet, which were toward the south against Arabia. He compassed also all the children of Madian, and burned up the tabernacles, and spoiled the sheepcotes. Then he went down into the plain of Damascus in the time of wheat harvest, and burnt up all their fields, and destroyed their flocks and herds. Also he spoiled their cities, and utterly wasted their countries, and smote all their young men with the edge of the sword. Therefore the fear and dread of him fell upon all inhabitants of the sea coast, which were in Sidon and Tyrus, and them that dwelt in Sir and Osina, and all that dwelt in Gina, and they that dwelt in Azotus and Ascalon feared him greatly. All right? So y'all see, in this chapter, he going around terrorizing the earth. Going around terrorizing the earth. All right, chapter 3. So they sent ambassadors unto him to treat of peace, saying, Behold, we, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, the great king, lie before thee. Use us, as shall be good in thy sight. Don't get lost, y'all. These are the people that was hearing how Nebuchadnezzar or Holofernes was running through everything under the order of Nebuchadnezzar. And so ambassadors were sent from other nations to Holofernes to bow down, to come with peace treaties, so that he wouldn't continue terrorizing the terrain. And to be honest with you, this sounds very similar to the peace treaties of America. All right, but let's go. All right, say, behold, we servants of Nebuchadnezzar, right? The great king, lie before thee. Use us, as shall be good in your sight. even if that means go to war against other people. They was down for whatever. It said, behold our houses and our places, and all our places, and all our fields of wheat and flocks and herds, and all the lodges of our tents lie before thy face. Use them as it pleases thee. Behold, even our cities and the inhabitants thereof are your servants. Come and deal with them as seemeth good unto thee. So the men came to Holofernes and declared it to him after this manner. Then came he down toward the sea coast, both he and his army, and set garrisons in the high places, and took out of them chosen men for aid. So they and all the country round about received them with garlands, with dances, and with timbrels. Do y'all hear what's going on right now? Shucking and jiving is what they call it. It say, yet he did cast down their frontiers. The great frontiers. And cut down their groves. For he had decreed to destroy all the gods of the land, that all nations should worship Nabucodonosor only, and that all tongues and tribes should call upon him as God. I hope y'all paying attention, man. Also, he came over against Ashkelon, near unto Judea, over against the great city of the great strait of Judea. And he pitched between Geba and Scythopolis, and there he tarried a whole month, that he might gather together all the carriages of his army. All right, so now y'all see in chapter 3, he's still terrorizing, and you got people coming to him making peace treaties and all that. And when they made these peace treaties, he took over their frontiers and their high places and made them an abomination. He destroyed them. And he declared that they should call him God. All right? So let's keep going. Now, the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nabucodonosor, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples and brought them to naught. Therefore, they were exceedingly afraid of him, and were troubled for Jerusalem and for the temple of the Lord their God. For they were newly returned from the captivity, and all the people of Judea were lately gathered together, and the vessels and the altar and the house were sanctified after the profanation. Therefore, they sent into all the coast of Samaria, and the villages and to Bethoron, and Belman, and Jericho, and to Jobah, and to Esorah, and to the valley of Salim, or Salam, and possessed themselves beforehand of all the tops of the high mountains, and fortified the villages that were in them, and laid up victuals for provision of war. For their fields were of late reaped, Also, Joachim, the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in Bethulia and Bedomestum, which is over against Ashardrilam, toward the open country near Dothium, charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, for by them there was an entrance into Judea, and it was easy to stop them that would come up, because the passage was straight for 2 men at the most. And the children of Israel did as Joachim the high priest had commanded them, with the ancients of all the people of Israel, which dwelt at Jerusalem. Then every man of Israel cried to God with great fervency, and with great vehemency did they humble their souls, both they and their wives and their children and their cattle and every stranger and hireling, and their servants bought with money put sackcloth upon their loins. Thus every man and woman and the little children and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell before the temple and cast ashes upon their heads and spread out their sackcloths before the face of the Lord. Also they put sackcloth about the altar, and cried to the God of Israel, all with one consent, earnestly, that he would not give their children for a prey, and their wives for a spoil, and their cities of their inheritance to destruction, and the sanctuary to profanation and reproach, and for the nations to rejoice at. So God heard their prayers and looked upon their afflictions. For the people fasted many days in all Judea and Jerusalem before the sanctuary of the Lord Almighty. And Joachim, the high priest, and all the priests that stood before the Lord, and they which ministered unto the Lord, had their loins girt with sackcloth, and offered the daily burnt offerings with the vows and great gifts of the people, and free gifts, It say, with the vows and free gifts of the people. So it's wartime, basically, right? And had ashes on their mitres, and cried unto the Lord with all their power, that he would look upon all the house of Israel graciously. All right? So, in this 4th chapter, you see they getting prepared. They're fortifying their high mountains. They're praying to their God. They're getting strength. You know what I'm saying? They're building themselves up to prepare for war, is what they're doing. Bringing everything they got together, the victuals and all that type of stuff, free gifts, so that everyone can survive and maintain. It's like unity right now. That's what's going on. All right? So, y'all check out part 2. I'm going to end right here and see what happens when they get into the battle. Because as you guys can see on this picture, you see a man's head cut off. According to this story, this actually happened. All right? So, follow me and get to the end of the head chopping. All right? Peace. Y'all have a good one. Catch me on part 2.